Everything you thought you knew about the world's largest living lizard? A complete lie. For over a century, scientists believed Komodo dragons killed their prey through bacterial infection. Dozens of species of deadly microbes festering in rotting flesh between their teeth. A bite that condemned victims to die slowly from sepsis over days or weeks. Textbooks printed it, documentaries repeated it, zoos taught it to millions of visitors. Then researchers discovered the truth, and it rewrote everything. Komodo dragons aren't patient scavengers waiting for bacteria to do their dirty work. They're sophisticated, venomous predators, apex killers with anticoagulant toxins coursing through specialized glands. A hunting mechanism so advanced, it took humanity 100 years to even notice it existed. 3 meters long, 70 kilograms of muscle, a bite force that can crush bone, venom that prevents blood from clotting while inducing shock. This isn't some primitive reptile left over from the dinosaur age. This is evolution's perfect killing machine. Still operating, still hunting, still terrifying, and the misconceptions don't stop at venom. We were wrong about where they came from, wrong about how they hunt, wrong about their intelligence, even wrong about their size. The real Komodo dragon is far stranger and more dangerous than anyone imagined. Komodo Island, 1910. A Dutch colonial administrator named Lieutenant Van Stein van Hensbroek receives disturbing reports from pearl divers, stories of land crocodiles, dragons, monsters exceeding 6 meters in length that devour goats and attack men. Van Hensbroek was skeptical, but curious enough to investigate. What he found changed biology forever. A massive monitor lizard, longer than any reptile he'd ever seen. He shot one specimen and sent it to the Zoological Museum in Bogor, Java. Peter Owens, the museum's director, examined the remains and officially described the species in 1912. Varanus komodoensis, the Komodo dragon. But here's where the story gets complicated. Scientists assumed this creature was an ancient relic, an evolutionary leftover stranded on Indonesian islands after separating from mainland populations millions of years ago. Island gigantism, they called it. Small lizards arriving on isolated landmasses, growing enormous over millennia without predators or competition. This theory dominated for decades. It felt intuitive, logical, completely wrong. In 2009, researchers from the University of Melbourne discovered fossilized Komodo dragon remains in Queensland, Australia. The bones dated back nearly 4 million years. These weren't island creatures that grew large over time. They originated in Australia as already massive predators before migrating to Indonesia. The Komodo dragon didn't evolve into a giant. It always was one. This revelation forced scientists to reconsider everything about Varanus komodoensis. If the standard narrative about its origins was backward, what else had they gotten wrong? Turns out, almost everything about how it kills. The bacterial infection theory seemed bulletproof. Komodo dragons eat carrion, rotting meat, decaying flesh, crawling with pathogens. Their mouths must harbor incredible concentrations of deadly bacteria. When they bite prey, those bacteria transfer into the wound. The victim escapes initially, but succumbs to infection days later. The dragon simply follows and waits. Beautiful theory, supported by field observations, reinforced by the fact that water buffalo bitten by Komodos often died within 1 to 2 weeks from apparent infection. One problem, it was never actually tested properly. Dr. Brian Fry, a venom researcher at the University of Queensland, decided to examine Komodo dragon oral bacteria directly. His findings shocked the scientific community. Komodo dragon mouths contained fewer bacteria than the average house cat. Nothing special, nothing particularly deadly, but Fry found something else entirely. Specialized venom glands, located in the lower jaw, producing a complex cocktail of toxic proteins. These toxins prevent blood clotting, induce hypotension, cause shock, create massive tissue damage around the wound site. The dragons weren't waiting for bacteria to kill their prey. They were envenomating them, then tracking them as they weakened from blood loss and cardiovascular collapse. This changed the Komodo dragon's classification overnight. It wasn't just a large monitor lizard. It was one of the largest venomous animals on Earth, the biggest venomous reptile currently alive. The venom glands produce at least 2 types of deadly proteins. One acts as an anticoagulant, preventing wounds from clotting. Blood continues flowing. The victim weakens progressively. The second protein drops blood pressure dramatically, inducing shock that makes escape increasingly impossible. Combined with massive physical trauma from serrated teeth designed to tear rather than puncture, the Komodo dragon's bite is catastrophic. A single attack can produce wounds that bleed for hours, days, sometimes. Now the water buffalo deaths made sense. Those animals weren't dying from infection. They were dying from venom-induced blood loss. Standing in dirty water with open wounds simply added secondary infections that researchers mistakenly identified as the primary cause. The truth was hiding in plain sight for a century. But venom is just one weapon in this predator's arsenal. Komodo dragons hunt with intelligence that challenges our assumptions about reptilian cognition. They ambush prey, they coordinate, they recognize individual humans and respond differently to familiar versus unfamiliar faces. Captive Komodos display personality differences, problem-solving abilities, something researchers hesitantly describe as play behavior. One zookeeper reported that a Komodo dragon learned to unzip bags, not through random movement, through observation and deliberate manipulation. The animal watched humans, studied the mechanism, then replicated it. These are not mindless killing machines operating on pure instinct. They're thinking predators making tactical decisions. In the wild, Komodo dragons have been observed positioning themselves strategically before attacks. Downwind, hidden, patient. They can remain motionless for hours, waiting for prey to approach optimal striking distance. When hunting deer, their preferred prey, they often target the legs first, hamstringing victims to prevent escape. Then they wait. Let the venom work. Follow the blood trail. Before we go deeper into the hunting strategies that make these animals apex predators, if you're the kind of person who finds nature's most terrifying secrets impossible to resist, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. What we're about to cover next makes everything so far seem almost gentle. Adult Komodo dragons will eat almost anything they can kill. Deer, pigs, water buffalo, monkeys, goats, other Komodo dragons. They're not picky. They're opportunistic apex predators, sitting at the absolute top of their island food chains, but their most disturbing hunting behavior involves humans. Attacks on people are rare, but documented. Increasingly frequent, according to local rangers. Between 1974 and 2012, researchers recorded 24 attacks on humans in Komodo National Park. 5 were fatal. The victims share something in common. Most were crouching or bending, appearing smaller, more vulnerable, more like typical prey. Komodo dragons don't usually attack standing adult humans. We're too tall, too unfamiliar. But a person squatting to photograph wildlife, a child, someone injured on the ground, target acquired. The attacks are swift and devastating. One survivor described being grabbed by the leg and shaken violently. The serrated teeth tore muscle from bone in seconds. The venom began working immediately. Without rapid evacuation to a hospital, he would have bled to death within hours. Locals have learned strategies. Never crouch near dragons. Carry forked sticks to push them away. Never run, which triggers pursuit instincts. Move slowly, deliberately. Make yourself appear as large as possible. These aren't guidelines for avoiding an oversized lizard. They're survival protocols for coexisting with an active predator. And that predator is bigger than most people realize. Much bigger. Early estimates suggested Komodo dragons reach maximum lengths around 2.5 meters. Respectable, impressive even, but conservative. The largest verified specimen measured 3.13 meters, over 10 feet long, weighing 166 kilograms, more than many adult male humans weigh. There are unverified reports of even larger individuals, 4 meters, 4.5. These claims remain scientifically unconfirmed, but experienced rangers insist exceptional specimens exist in remote areas rarely visited by researchers. What we know for certain is that males continue growing throughout their lives. Given enough food and time, there's no predetermined maximum size. The limits are environmental, not genetic. Now consider this. Komodo dragons can sprint at 20 kilometers per hour, short bursts, enough to close distance on surprise prey before they can react. They're not slow, lumbering reptiles. They're explosive attackers capable of sudden violence. They can also swim between islands for kilometers. There are documented cases of dragons appearing on islands where none existed previously. They colonize new territories, expand their range, find new prey populations, and they reproduce in ways that seem biologically impossible. Female Komodo dragons can reproduce without males. Parthenogenesis, virgin birth. A female kept in isolation at Chester Zoo in England laid a clutch of viable eggs in 2006. No male had ever been present in her enclosure. The offspring were all male. Genetically, parthenogenetic reproduction in Komodo dragons produces only males due to their chromosome system. This means a single female washing up on an uninhabited island could theoretically establish an entire breeding population. First, she produces males parthenogenetically, then mates with her own offspring to produce both sexes. The population expands from one individual. Evolution has given this species redundancy, backup systems, multiple pathways to survival. Yet despite these remarkable adaptations, Komodo dragons face extinction. Fewer than 3,500 individuals remain in the wild, all confined to a handful of Indonesian islands. Komodo, Rinca, Flores, Gili Motang. Their total range spans less than 1,000 square kilometers. Climate change threatens to shrink that range further. Rising temperatures and sea levels will alter the ecosystems these dragons depend upon. Some models predict suitable habitat could decrease by 30% within the next 45 years. Illegal poaching continues. Dragon parts fetch high prices in traditional medicine markets despite legal protections. Habitat destruction from human development fragments populations, reduces genetic diversity. The very isolation that protected Komodo dragons for millions of years now threatens them. With nowhere to expand and populations too small to absorb losses, a single catastrophic event could devastate the species. There's bitter irony here. We spent a century fundamentally misunderstanding this animal, reducing it to a simple scavenger with dirty teeth, missing the sophisticated venomous hunter hiding in plain sight. And now, just as we finally understand what Komodo dragons truly are, we're watching them disappear. The most recent discoveries only deepen the mystery. Researchers have found that Komodo dragon blood contains antimicrobial compounds that could revolutionize human medicine. These molecules kill bacteria that have become resistant to conventional antibiotics. The dragons evolved these defenses to survive their own lifestyle, eating rotting meat, fighting viciously with each other, sustaining wounds that would kill other animals through infection. Their immune systems developed countermeasures we're only beginning to understand. There may be treatments for drug-resistant superbugs hiding in Komodo dragon blood, cures for infections that currently kill hundreds of thousands of humans annually. We wrongly believe these animals relied on bacteria to kill. Instead, they evolved to defeat bacteria more effectively than any pharmaceutical company has managed. The misconceptions compound, layer upon layer. A century of confident wrongness built on assumptions nobody thought to question. Komodo dragons aren't evolutionary relics. They're not bacterial delivery systems. They're not primitive reptiles trapped on forgotten islands. They're venomous apex predators, intelligent hunters, reproductive anomalies, medical gold mines, climate refugees watching their world shrink. The dragon of Komodo Island has kept secrets for millions of years. We only started paying attention a century ago, and in that brief span, we got almost everything wrong. What else might we be missing? What other assumptions remain unexamined? How many textbook facts are waiting to be overturned by someone willing to actually look? The Komodo dragon doesn't care about our misconceptions. It continues hunting, killing, surviving, just as it has since before humans existed. But the question now isn't what we got wrong about this animal. The question is whether we'll figure out how to keep it alive long enough to learn what else we've missed. 3 meters of muscle, venom glands producing anticoagulants, antimicrobial blood, parthenogenetic reproduction, intelligence that shouldn't exist in a reptile, and for 100 years we thought it was just a big lizard with a dirty mouth.